Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, and welcome to TFYLP, episode 365, for Monday, February 3rd. So today, the Chiefs have just won the Super Bowl. So, some of us, not going to say who, may be a little bit tired and off their game from staying up late last night watching the game.
I'm just happy that Andy Reid, as a lifelong Eagles fan, I am just glad that he now has that W under his belt.
Yeah, I too am excited for that.
My hips don't lie.
So tonight we have a special episode with Eric Braley of ToyRobot.
Hello.
And I also brought in a couple other guys here, so Paul and Rick as well. So
I am also here.
I'm sure Rick will probably do most of the talking here, right?
Oh, well, we can battle. I mean, we'll see.
Right. It would be like a battle royale.
I happen to give good talk. It's just how it is. I happen to be right. I'm an alpha male. I'm an alpha.
I'm an omega.
You're a delta.
Oh.
You're not even.
Yeah, I am.
You're a delta.
So here a couple weeks ago, this ToyRobot popped up on Facebook, and I was like, oh, what is this all about? This looks kind of interesting. So, clicked on it, was checking it out, and I guess, Eric, if you want to just kind of tell us about what ToyRobot is.
Okay, well, ToyRobot is a concept that I've had for about 15 or 20 years, and just recently I pitched it to my friend Bill Freetag, who is a professional videographer and photographer, and a guy I've known since high school. And he was like, we have a friend we might be able to pitch this to. We got hold of that friend. After a 30-minute meeting, the guy was like, dude, I'm on board. Let's do this. Let's just start a publishing company. Let's just do this. So he took a chance on us, and 5 months later, we're ready to launch it. It is a magazine dedicated to Transformers and transforming robots. We will branch out into other things as well. Once in a while, we may touch on things like Gundam or, just robots in general. But the main focus is that overall umbrella of transforming robots and everything involved with that.
So what made you guys decide to, go ahead and start this up here in 2020 when, now, there's so many different forms of media, not just physical media, but, digital media as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, one of my biggest things was, I love forums. I love YouTube. I love all these videos. I love everything like this. But what I miss is holding a physical copy of a magazine or a book in my hand. When I go on long road trips, I know some people like to have their audiobooks out and whatnot. I like to sit in the back seat, pop open a book, a magazine, and just read. That's my time to read and get my own time. If I want to watch a movie or something, I can do that at home. But I want to read. And, it's been a long time since we've had a fanzine. I mean, there's still a few publications in America like G-Fan and stuff, but they're nearly absent in this country. But if you go over to Japan, they litter the magazine racks over there. And forums, I love them, but you run into the problem of you might report a new thing right now. We're seeing all these Earth Siege, I can't remember the title right now. Earthrise. Thank you, God. Tripping over everything here. So we have all these new figures coming up, like Grapple today and all that. And you'll see the report, but then those forums just devolve into the same conversation over and over and over. It's people sharing their opinions back and forth. What I miss was being able to read an actual article, an in-depth look from a unique perspective, rather than just a news article. And this magazine is not news articles. It is an in-depth look and unique look at certain things within the community.
So, with that being said, what do you consider to be an in-depth look?
Okay, so I'm going to give you guys an example here, and I used this on a show the other day. One of the things I like to do is a thing called artifacts. That's going to be a feature in all of our magazines. We're going to take about 3 to 8 paragraphs, and we're going to examine something from the past that you might have seen in a picture on somebody's fan page, or if you're a hardcore collector, you might have seen it. But like what we're going to do is we're going to cover something like this. So this is a pencil case from Paxos. And I have about 8-paragraph write-up about the history of this, what it is. And this is something most casual fans will never have heard of, seen. This was one of the last things ever made under the G1 toy line. And we want to talk about that more than just, oh, here's the thing. It was made in 19 whatever and by this company. And here's like 4 pictures. I want to give you a better look at that.
Rick, do you have one of those?
I do.
It's a nice little piece. I was really happy to find one.
So how do you gather your information? So, for example, that pencil case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you...
Can we quick describe it for our audio listeners?
Oh, absolutely. Okay,
because it was kind of substantial. That was something I've never seen.
Yeah. Okay. So Paxos was a company out of Greece. They had and still apparently have licensing rights for Transformers. The latest piece I was able to find was a Transformers Prime paper folder. But so what this is an old vinyl-like material. It's the stuff all the backpacks in the 1980s and 90s were made of, that like scratchy corduroy type material. And it features Overlord on it there in bright neon colors. And it says Transformers, and he's standing on a globe that's burning. And this was released alongside the last European stuff where they started reissuing some of the Japanese material in the Pretenders packaging, if you remember that little tail end.
Check out that Autobot logo. It almost looks like the TFYLP logo.
See if we can get that close enough.
Look at the colors.
Oh, that's
for a
interesting.
second, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
There are a few treasures from Greece that that you've never seen before. One of my favorite things, candle sets from Beast Wars.
Oh,
just
nice.
Unbelievable. Cool. Just unbelievable stuff. I don't know exactly what the tradition is, but it's, I think, for a certain birthday or for a certain holiday, you have candles that are given to boys, or the boys light the candles, and these are Beast Wars candles.
That's really cool. Yeah, the same guy I bought this stuff from had a backpack and some other stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
You'd think they would have made plates that you could smash.
Oh,
Opa, Tron.
Potentially. Yeah, so I've seen the backpacks before, the pencil cases. I can't recall if I've ever seen a lunchbox from Greece.
Greece also had the very late run Battle Beast single color toys that came out that were debated all the way up into the early 2000s on whether or not they were even official releases. They look like little giveaways from an arcade, but they are actually an official release.
So, just doing a little research on what is out there on ToyRobot and this publication that you want to bring forward. You talk about, or you have spoken about, having unique pictures that no one's ever have. Is this what you're talking about? Is there something
certain
beyond,
cases like this? Yeah. So there's going to be.
goods?
Okay, so there's going to be occasions where you're right. Somebody else out there might have a picture of this, but we have a lot of these sites, sans a few. You get these nice up close pictures, but they always seem kind of generic pictures. We want to bring you new, unique angles, better high res pictures. The guy I work with has like top of the line equipment, like the stuff that costs like most people would have to put a car down to get. He just has this kind of stuff. He does commercial work. his vision with a lot of photographs. I know it sounds weird, but he can make things come to life. One of the things we're working on is in the first issue, I talk about a very obscure line of decoys called Forms Robo. They were double-sized decoys that were made in Japan, very rare. They're not worth a whole bunch, like $25-50. I was lucky to come across a test shot set from Japan. If you go on eBay right now, the seller still has some test shots available. I had to drop a rather significant sum on them. But this, as far as I'm aware, is the first time somebody has high-quality pictures of a full set of 10 in one picture. Most sites have like these tiny little thumbnail pictures that were taken from people's collections in the mid-90s, and no one's really brought you that. Or we have each magazine has posters. Those posters 90% of the time are going to be 100% unique in our magazine. Those are pictures we put together, and then we will also highlight some artwork from like professional comic book artists, or even eventually we'll reach out to local talent.
I think there might be a few other publications that have shown those decoys.
Okay.
I know I have a few of them in my collection. I probably would argue the price on some of those with you.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing is, one thing is I do put pricing based on what I see on current market trends. So in the Forms Robo article, I say this is kind of what I'm seeing them sell for now. This is what I paid. In some cases, like my set, I paid a little over $500 plus shipping for. But that was like a gift to myself because I was like, I'm pretty sure these are test shots. So I was like, called up a few friends who I have, and I was like, yes or no, and they're like, oh, I buy from him all the time. They're absolutely legit. Do it up and stuff. So,
well, so with that being said, with having more obscure items like that, one of the trends that's happened, for better or for worse, you mentioned Japanese magazines. The second a Japanese magazine hits, it gets scanned. It gets scanned and it gets shared with everyone.
And it will be scanned, but you run into that issue, but it's the same with movies or anything else. The second content's out there, we could go all digital. I guarantee you within 24 hours, somebody will take that digital copy and redistribute it. They'll find a way to do it. There'll always be somebody who will want it for free. And I understand that. I don't agree with it all the time, but it happens. But I believe that the people who want to support the community and see more done in the community, especially on national level, will go out and support those situations. You see that issue with people who will draw a hard line in the sand, say, like, I'm not going to buy certain toys from, say, Wish or Alibaba because I know those are not legitimate releases of company stuff that's being released. I don't have a problem with buying some random stuff off Wish once in a while, but I'm not going to buy a toy if I know for a fact it's still on the market today. So I will look at an item and go, hey, this third-party company, they're still offering this toy on their website. I'm not going to buy that from Wish. I'm going to go, and I would rather pay the full retail cost than a fraction of the cost. And so I think, go ahead, sorry.
Knowing we live in that, digital world where that is a possibility that you're clearly aware of, are there any steps you're taking towards making your run of magazines maybe a little more collectible, like any sort of add-ins that wouldn't really serve you as a digital copy, but might be cool as a physical?
Well, the pull-out posters, to be sure, those are going to be physical posters. The first issue will have 7 posters. There'll be 6 smaller posters and 1 pull-out, like double spread poster, like the old Playboy magazines. Not quite, but you know what I mean. Like, it's a spread, you pulled open, that's pretty fun.
You should put that secret glow in the dark image on it, like those old G1.
Oh, that would be really cool.
That would be crazy because you can't do that digitally.
There's all sorts of crazy options that we do have. We're going to be trying to look into ways to make it more collectible. I know we've talked about after X issues are out to the public, we might start a backlog that you can go onto our website and get access to. That's something that the guy who's publishing it for us, he does that with a local magazine. After 2 issues out, he'll start putting the old backlog available to the public for people to, share with their family or whatever. But there's always going to be the issue of digital versus physical. But our page has already gotten just shy of 1,500 followers in under a couple of weeks. The demand is there somewhere. It's gotta be. I'm not the only one. I've talked to hundreds of people at hundreds of conventions, and we always sat back and were like, we wish we kind of had something to sit down and read.
So speaking of the conventions, there was an official magazine for many years, an official fan club magazine. Did you ever try to assist in that, or did you ever contact Fun Publications when that was an item? Were you a fan at that point?
I've been around since 1984 when I started, as a very, very young baby, getting those. Like my first Transformer I remember getting was Astro Train, but at the time I didn't have access to a lot of the publications. We're talking as a younger person. Nowadays, out there I try to help out wherever I can. As a publication, we want to reach out to as many people as we can in all forms, whether it's forums, radio shows, whatever,
So have you actually had the chance to sit down and look through those Fun Publication magazines?
Not yet. I have not. I am familiar with them, but I have not had a chance to sit down. The main one I've been going through and looking through are the Toy Fair, Wizards, and Lee's Toy Reviews, because that's what I have access to the most. And one of the things that inspired me was Toy Fair magazine. So we're not replicating, but I'm going back and going like, oh, this was a cool concept, or I liked this idea. We interviewed Zach Oat, who is the editor of that for a very long time. He's our first interview, so.
So what would you say is your process for narrowing down your articles? And I guess your articles are more opinionated and insightful. As far as the insightful stuff, what's the process of checking that information, getting it out there, and who's editing this project?
Okay, so what I did is for the prototype issue, the first issue is I sat down one day, I was in a bad mood, and I was like, I need to do something creative beyond what I was doing. I said, screw it, I'm going to take this old magazine idea I had off the shelf. I literally took a bunch of pieces of paper, folded it into a magazine, and said, if I was going to write my dream magazine, just start writing on each page what I want as an article, what I would want to read. So right off the bat, I was like, I want to cover HasLab Unicron, but I want to cover that saga. I want to cover what it was, the saga of, like, remember watching those numbers just not move, and you're like, come on, man, those numbers gotta move. And then that date get extended, and you're like, what the hell are you guys doing? And why aren't you advertising this better? You're like, going to cons. And then
Unicron Watch.
Yeah, and then Zetacore came in, you're like, what is happening? So I thought that's what I want to write about. And then I went to the next page and I said, I'm gonna write about these decoys I have. Or I want to write about I just sat around and looked online for a while and I was like, God, there's a lot of transforming robots in Spider-Man. I thought that's such a bizarre thing. I need to cover that. I want to know, why is this happening? And I wrote a page-long article on that. And so what I do is I scour the internet, I scour resources. If I can, I'll go to, for the Spider-Man one, I went to my friend's comic shop and I just started talking to a super Spider-Man fan there. And I was like, dude, can you name every time you can think of, like, transforming robots or robots were, and we just start bouncing ideas back and forth for about 3 hours, and I took notes. And I tried to resource and edit and clean up all this stuff. For editing, it's myself, and I have 2 or 3 other people on the side who will reread the article, and then it goes through a small team of other people through a company called McQuillan Creative Group. He has people who he has edit for his magazine, so they double check. So hopefully nothing falls through the cracks, but
so you had mentioned Toy Fair. Do you have any other resources from the Transformers community that you're going to be featuring in the, like, your first number of issues, or is it going to be something like once you have your prototype done, then you'll try to, kind of build on that?
We'll always try to build and improve. Anything that says this is it, this is perfect, and you don't try to build and improve, that doesn't work. Unfortunately, I won't have feedback until the first issue is out, and you people, the fans, and everybody reading it, and the community, for or against, we're going to look at that and go, okay, yeah, no, I can see this, or maybe this is something we can tweak. We had one guy get angry at us that we're publishing a magazine because we're not paperless, so I don't think he quite got the grasp of that. But we're not going down that rabbit hole, but that was fun. So he's very upset about that. But that was something like, okay, that's somebody out there in the community who's very angry at we're doing a printed magazine. So that's something I can keep in the back of my mind. Or, I go through like all of Mark Bellomo's writing and books. I followed his career since the beginning, so I have like every other publication he's written. I have like the old Transformers guide. Anything and everything I try to use as a resource if I can, because I want to try to make sure the information I'm presenting is correct.
Hey, which guides do you have?
Let's see here. They're behind me somewhere. They're all
You're
jumbled
fishing,
up.
you fucker.
Are you fishing? Is this your guide? Is that Alex's guide there?
I was gonna say, which depends on which one you have.
Just curious.
I have the G1 guide and the God, what was it? The Beast Wars one that's laying around here somewhere.
Oh, all right.
There
So,
we go. These two. I got these ones.
yeah.
Oh!
What do you think about those?
Are those yours?
Is
that you?
Might be.
That's
Yeah,
you,
might
Albert.
be.
I was going to ask, but I didn't want to be like, I'm not going to sound dumb if I ask.
So, I wrote that first book over 20 years ago when I was a little kid. I didn't know what I was doing back then. So that's why I went back last year and wrote a whole new book.
Oh, excellent.
So,
I still need to get the Japanese one in that series. So
that's one of my favorite ones. I think the Beast Wars is my favorite. What fan events, conventions have you been to that?
Go ahead.
So what fan events, conventions that you've been to that have either given you a great experience to talk about in the magazine, or you can write an article about that might be helpful for someone who's potentially going to a convention? You mentioned before the show that you're in South Dakota.
Yeah.
So for someone who lives in South Dakota or California, traveling to the East Coast or to Texas, it can be a hassle. Not everyone gets to travel. So
yeah, unfortunately,
has any of that inspired you?
Unfortunately, I've never been able to go to any of the official things. BotCon, glad to see that's coming back, but I was never able to afford to go to BotCon. There's a big one up in Canada, literally 800 miles straight north of where I live, but the one time I thought about going is when they changed all the rules about going across the border. So it wasn't like just hop in your car and go with your buddies, and drive up to Canada. Now I have to actually have the passport and all that. So I'll probably never get around to that. So I've never been able to go to the bigger Transformer-themed conventions, but I have been to things like, the Godzilla convention out in Chicago.
G-Fest, yeah.
G-Fest. I've been to a couple of larger ones out in Minneapolis, because that's only a 5-hour drive for me. But I've been to lots of smaller conventions and medium-sized ones and trade shows. And one of the things I kind of mentioned in my letter to the editors, or from the editors, one of my favorite things at conventions is I have certain friends that I have known now for over 20 years, and the only reason we ever started talking was we'd be at a vendor's booth, and I'd be looking at, say, boxed Galvatron, and my friend would walk over and he'd be like, "Oh man, I love this," and that's all it took. And so I can, it's that I'm hoping this magazine can create another opportunity for people. A guy riding our train, he's looking through our magazine. Maybe somebody sees that and goes, "I love me some Transformers." When you're wearing a Transformers shirt and some random person in Walmart's like, hey, Optimus. That can create an opportunity. And I'm hoping that's one of the things that this magazine can do, is create opportunities for people to start talking to each other. And also I want to bring casual people, like, say you're a father with a son who loves Transformers, but you're like, maybe this will kind of pull you into the fold and be like, oh, there's a lot more to this than just some, random live action blow 'em up movie.
Well, yeah, and that's one of those things too that is a I have young kids and they're not on Facebook yet, or they're not on social media, and so how do they get? Because they're not like us trolling all these Transformers forums for information. How do they get this information? Because so much of that information now is shared on social media. So outside of me showing my kid, hey, look, the new stuff from Toy Fair or whatever that just came out. And so I think that is something that is kind of neat, that I can give this to my kid and have him read some of that, because I've done the same thing, with Rick's book, or with Jim's book or whatever, to where I'm able to kind of share that in a physical form. That's a lot easier for younger kids than for teenagers, whatever, that aren't yet on Facebook.
Yeah, and we're trying to keep this about PG-13. There's not going to be anything ultra adult related. There's certain topics. One of the articles I scrapped because I was just like, you know what, this is going to be more of a hassle than what I wanted it to be, was I covered women in Transformers, both positives and negatives, and how they're portrayed. Mostly I kind of focused on like the Bayverse and blah, 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 blah. But I looked at it again. I went, you know what, this is... you know how like our culture can be sometimes. I thought this is going to cause too much of a hassle. I thought it's PG-13, but I feel like it's too in-depth of an article to enjoy as an adult, but also with your kid. And I thought, I don't like that. So we just said, scrap it, throw it away. It'll go into a folder of one day we might do it, maybe we won't.
Well, and here I thought you were covering KISS players. That's why you
issue number 3. I have a plan to write...
Spoilers!
Well, it's going to be... KISS Play will get covered, and holy God, I don't look forward to writing that at all. I don't.
So let me go, man. You've been chatting it up. So, who is, like, your target audience? Because it sounds to me like it's... If you're having articles about Greek pencil cases and forms robo decoys... You're talking to long timers, old timers, right?
We also cover some basic stuff, like I have an article in there about rescue bots. So our main demographic, especially our Facebook page is showing it, is going to be that probably 30 to 45-year-old range. Because also we're going for those people who missed that physical copy. Our next largest demographic is those 20-somethings. We definitely are probably missing on some of the younger audience and the tweens for sure. But, it's going to be, you're definitely going to want to know, you don't have to know this stuff. That's the point of these articles, is to, like, educate you and, like, oh, this is something cool, and you're like, or this is crap, I don't want to learn about it. But, it's going to be to fans of G1 and Beast Wars and Armada. That generation is probably going to pick this book up more than, say, the newest Cyberverse fans, the young children and whatnot. But I want to reach out to everybody. So, but target audience is probably folks our age.
So why keep it PG-13 then? If it's all older, I just that's a dissonance.
Right. It's
kind of going both ways.
It's going to be targeted audience, but I still want you to be able to leave the magazine out and let your kid thumb through it. I want your kid to be able to go out and look at. Also, I want to be able to get this distributed out eventually on like Walmarts, and that's not going to happen if you're throwing up, some fan fiction stuff up in there and whatnot.
Good point.
Well, and I mean, I feel like with Transformers, I mean, ultimately it is a children's family-friendly brand. So, I mean, although a lot of us are older, I mean, like you said, you want to be able to share it with everybody. So,
and I want to be able to grasp. The goal is to get some guy to walk by and be like, oh, I remember Transformers. He's not a Transformer collector, but to have him read it and be like, oh wow, I didn't know like all of this was involved, or like I remember this, and maybe I'll make him go out and look into it. Who knows?
Yeah, and that's what I always feel like for myself, that I don't have the same level of collection that other people do. with all this vintage stuff. So I really like reading about it. So some of this kind of stuff that I don't know anything about. So to me, I'm really digging it. Like, as long as it is, well resourced and, all the information is accurate and I can learn something from it. I know that, Maz, some of his articles from TF Source, that he always did a really great, or from TF Square One, always did a great job of, conveying some of that information, and just some of the, other people that put books out as well.
Yeah, it's definitely an uphill battle, and I'm trying something new here, and so there'll be some bumps in the road, I'm sure, but as we go on, it'll get better and better.
So this is a Kickstarter campaign.
Yes, we're going to do Kickstarter off the bat. And the reason we want to do Kickstarter off the bat is try to get that funding all up front so we don't have that as an additional hassle. You know what I mean? Like, we can go from square one, but if we can get square one to the final page done, we can focus on getting that product out to you better and higher quality that reduces our costs in the long run. Kickstarter's a really excellent way to get the branding out there with advertising and whatnot. It generates a lot more hype and interest than if we just soft release this through an online subscription source.
So with the Kickstarter, how long of a run are you planning on offering initially?
The Kickstarter, obviously, will be 30 days. I can't discuss the details right now, but it goes live tomorrow at noon Central Time. So please, 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 if you are interested in this, I must say my plug here real quick, if that's okay, is share it on all forms of media that you can. My next job for the next 30 days is pretty much staying in front of my computer for 10 straight hours a day, trying to get the information out there to people.
That's going to drive you crazy, talking from personal experience.
Oh, it's already has. Just getting the invites out on the pages has become about a 4-hour job. Like 4 hours a day now is just sending out invites like, so-and-so liked your post. I'm like, oh, you come to my page. But the magazine will be 44 pages. This is a glossy page, national quality magazine. The first issue, the only ads that will be in the first issue are on the back page. Eventually, it will have advertisements because, again, those help cover your costs. I do have to pay people to do this, and it's a ridiculous sum of money. And it'll be a bi-monthly issue, so 6 issues in a year.
Are you able to share with us what your funding goal is going to be?
Right now, I don't think that was allowed. It's a lot, though. It's not a small amount. But again, this is covering not one issue. This is covering 6 issues. This is covering publication costs. This is covering paychecks to people who get paid to do this. This isn't some random person. I'm the most random person in the whole project as the writer-editor. I'm coming at this with a little bit less background than others, but I am working with a professional photographer who is paid a good chunk of money for what he does. I am working with a actual magazine company who does a small publication. So they have a team of 4 or 5 people underneath them that get paid actual salaries. So I got to make sure those are all covered. The guy covering all the editing and putting that together, he's a professional editor. So there's all of this stuff. It's going to be a good quality project. But I don't think I can cover. I don't think I can say the actual cost out loud, only because of we're trying to keep that under wraps as a surprise. So it's not it's going to be $10 billion or anything like that. And it is going to be. This is how you're going to get your subscriptions to us through the Kickstarter. So
find out tomorrow at noon, right?
At noon, yes. Yeah. And hopefully we don't get hate mail like "How dare you?" And I'm on
February 4th.
Yeah, but its subscription costs are really affordable in my opinion. As a guy who buys comics and magazines on the regular, it's way affordable. So
just out of curiosity, you're going to have your Kickstarter to launch it and everything like that.
Yes.
If there is, are you planning on offering like subsequent Kickstarter or subscriptions through your store after the Kickstarter,
yes,
or is it mainly that you're just going to have your Kickstarter base?
No, there will be subscription base afterwards. The cost might be a little bit, not by a much, but a percentage higher after the Kickstarter. So part of this incentive is get in on the Kickstarter. This is going to be the cheapest you're going to be able to get the magazine, and this Kickstarter. And obviously, there's certain tiers. We will have options for overseas. There was a large group of people asking, like, "Hey, I'm in Europe, or I'm in Australia, or I'm in Russia. How do I get this magazine?" But like, man, we gotta look into this. So we had to pick a shipping cost and just go, "This is our generic shipping cost. We may eat some money on some of these magazines. Some places might be paying a tiny bit more," but that was the most equal option we were able to find, was just to pick a cost and go with it. And there are going to be some really cool tier options. There are going to be some stupid, ridiculous tier options that we just put in there of like, if somebody wants to and has the money, they can, but we don't expect anybody to actually do it. But if they do, that'd be sweet. And some of the tier options are, we may add more down the road, some new super spooky surprises there. So, it's some fun stuff coming up.
So will there be anything specific for the Kickstarter backers? Because I assume the first 6 issues, you can only get them through the Kickstarter.
Yep.
And then eventually they might be, back order. So is there anything specific that hey, I pledged to this Kickstarter, this is for me? Is it an alternate cover? Is it their name in the book?
There'll be I don't think it's spoiling it too much here, but we will have a thank you page for sure in the book. We made sure to make room in the magazine for that. I had to let go of an article that I didn't want to let go. All my articles are precious, but I had to cut one. So I had to go through something and pick through what I thought was the weakest article. But there'll be that. There's potential for more magazines if enough things are back. We have some cool incentives from a publisher out in California we're working with, a special printing press that can do something only a few printing presses in the United States right now can do. So there'll be a really cool thing. Alternate covers right now could be a potential that we might do. We haven't discussed it yet, and that's something that we can easily do down the road. Again, being a bi-monthly gives us a lot of options to change things on the fly, because the second issue is almost done in prototype form. I almost have all the articles written. I just got to start the editing phase. So, and there'll be a few other things. Like I said, just hop on the Kickstarter tomorrow, and you'll see.
So I've heard you mention photos quite a bit, and you're working with clearly a professional photo editor, photographer. I haven't heard anything about artists, for instance. Like, the fan artist pool is so big, and there's so many professionals. Yes. I wonder if that's another way you guys might affiliate yourself with a certain artists, or like change it out. You have like art gallery section. I know you can't tell us everything, but is that something you guys are considering beyond the photograph material?
For the first issue, we mainly had to do everything in-house. So we had to work with material that we mostly had access to. So that didn't allow us to work with, say, a professional comic book artist. But we actually ended up getting a hold of a comic book artist who has some really cool drawings out there. And we saw a drawing we really liked of his, and we were like, hey, we want to make this a poster in our upcoming magazine. And we expected a big, long thing of I don't work with unknowns and blah, blah. And they're like, nah, definitely. They're like, shoot me what you're working on. We sent him some information, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. And so we probably will have... we're going to probably reach out for issue 2 and 3 as well and be like, let's get some more of your artwork in here. But yeah, we are going to be reaching out to artists a lot more now that the project, we've had several people get a hold of us. We've had people wanting to do comic strips in it. We've had people wanting to do the cover. We've had people wanting to do just all sorts of random things. I would love to eventually start getting fan mail and featuring people's drawings and artwork in the fan mail section as well. So yeah, there's all sorts of options as this takes off.
So what is your delivery, your estimated delivery from the time the Kickstarter ends to I'll have the first issue in hand?
The second the Kickstarter ends and we have the information to our company that's publishing the magazine, they're also handling our distribution. We're talking almost immediate turnaround. The magazine's ready to print right now. The only reason we haven't is because, we want to, if we get the Kickstarter off the ground, we got to be able to put all those names in there and stuff like that. But we
want to
are
know how many to make.
Yeah, exactly. But we are putting, I believe we've been saying it's going to be a March magazine, so
Okay.
yeah, like you back it, it should be however long it takes for our guys to pump out the magazines and ship them out. And they are a professional company that handles projects globally. They're right here in our own hometown, so we work with them on a one-on-one basis. I don't have to work with an overseas company in China. It's literally a 5-minute drive from my house to where these magazines are being printed, and I can talk to the owner of the company himself and go like, hey, we can work this out. And they've already published magazines for the guy who's helping us, so it's not going to be a long turnaround.
So it sounds like even though this is a new magazine, that the company that you're working with and the people that you're working with have established and working in the magazine industry.
The company we're working with, McQuillan Creative Group, is a company here in my own hometown, and he publishes a free magazine based on our city, and it's to help with tourism and stuff. It's called Aberdeen. And he pumps it out, and he does mail it out to a few states like California and stuff where people might have lived in this town now, want it for their stuff, or certain tourist industries will want some magazines from nearby states. But he's established this magazine. It's free. And so he's established a good business model on how to get the advertising revenue in. And the quality of it is a national quality, even though it's just local. It's not like, printed on newspaper or anything like that. So he has an amazing experience, and he's been in the industry of printing for ever, I think. So yeah.
Would you be interested in taking any of our viewer questions?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'll try my best. How's that?
These are all gotcha questions, by the way.
Oh, I bet they are.
I'm just gonna make them up and say they're from someone else.
Yeah, sure. I'll try my best.
Rodimus Supreme early on. He had a question. Well, it's not a question. A comment that I think maybe you'd want to speak on. He just said, "I'm curious to see if Hasbro is going to be involved or not." So, as an independent, clearly this is an independent publication.
Yes.
What are your aspirations as far as dealing with the brand? I mean, you were pretty smart with calling it ToyRobot.
I would love for Hasbro to be involved. Obviously, I would love for people involved in older companies that we cover to be involved. We're not trying to step on anybody's toes. We went through a lot of legalese to make sure that hopefully we're in the clear. And that's a scary place. I'm not going to lie. That's super scary. But we're not pulling a situation of, hey, we're releasing the exact same thing you are, just changing the name on it at the exact same time. We're not doing something like that. We're releasing a fan magazine for everything, but I would love to see a relationship with our magazine like Toho has with G-Fan magazine, where they're like, okay, yeah, we like this. We'll back it every now and then. We might shoot you guys some information. That would be amazing.
Any comments on that, Rick?
No. No comments.
Well, I noticed you had mentioned, I think, online or something like that about featuring third party as well. And I know obviously Hasbro's not a fan of third party, I'm sure.
They're not a fan, yep.
Is there any questions with that if you're trying to get, relationships with Hasbro, but then featuring third party? about the back and forth on that.
That's actually the biggest thing I'm wondering is down the road. Our first issue, I don't think I officially cover any third party, but at the same time, this is a magazine that isn't Transformers. This is Transformers and Transforming Robots. And some of these companies are putting out products that may have been inspired by Transformers, but they're clearly not Transformers. They're not a one-off of a Transformer. They're putting out some really unique products sometimes. And I'm really impressed. When third parties started up 20 years ago, I wasn't all that impressed. But nowadays, I'm like, they should be out on shelves alongside all these other toys. They really should be.
Whoa, shots fired.
That's a bold statement there.
Changing subjects, Nero, who's also watching the show, mentioned that buy-sell trade classifieds might spur subscriptions, and he misses that kind of thing in old fanzines.
Yeah, no, that's actually something when we were discussing our pricing points and advertising and everything, I said specifically Hobby Japan magazine pay $20 a month for a magazine I can't even read. But part of my fun in that is going through all the buy-sell trade sections in the back in there. And I have found myself going to sites in Japan going like, all right, I translated this and I know what I want and the price point was right. I need to get a hold of this little shop in Kyoto and be like, I want that. And then they're like, the communication barrier sometimes comes in, but like, whatever, I don't care about shipping. I want this cool little thing. I want that. So yeah, no, that's something I have highly put on the table as I would like to see that in our magazine, a small page for local ads again between sellers and buyers. Yeah.
So if anyone was interested, I mean, you mentioned there aren't going to be ads in the first magazine, or you already have them set?
Yeah, in the first issue, we just have some small ads on the back inside cover.
So if an entity was interested in advertising in your magazine for the next 5 issues, will those opportunities be available, and how can people get involved? Or maybe that's part of the Kickstarter, and we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Right now, I don't think we had that in the Kickstarter. That might have been. I can't remember. But we have the Facebook page for right now. We are in the process of building the web domain. And again, having worked with a professional company, we already have the press release kit and our basic pricing points down. The pricing points will either stay the same or go up as progress goes on, If the magazine takes off incredibly well, expect advertising to get a little bit more expensive. If it stays where it's at, it's right now pretty reasonable for a small publication. But you can contact our page, ToyRobot on Facebook right now, and we can send you a kit on that.
Cool. I just want to know how much it costs for me to get a picture of Rick's beautiful face in every episode. Issue, not episode.
On Facebook or YouTube about my new haircut. This happened today, by the way.
Oh, right on.
I want to show the world your monocle.
It's actually going to be you didn't say something shocking enough, but I'm going to give Eric a chance to break some news here in order to get the monocle reaction. Right. Eric, say something shocking, please.
You look handsome as heck, man. I love it.
That is shocking. It's been a few hours since a man has called me handsome.
Oh, there you go.
So Eric, yes. I wish you the best of luck.
Okay.
Please keep us informed. I think it'd be a good idea to have you back after this Kickstarter is said and done.
Yeah. We're fingers crossed, man. So now I gotta ship my magazines, my books off to you and get them signed, right? Is that how that works?
I charge for that.
Yeah, it's like
I charge for that. Yeah. But if you want to come over and do some painting in the basement, I'll sign them.
Oh, I will. No, I'm good.
There you go. Yeah, I know. Also, Rodimus Supreme had another comment too about asking if you consider doing mini comics in the back of the magazines.
That gets a little tricky sometimes.
Yeah. It does. My biggest thing is, and I use this as an example all the time, is, and I know I keep bringing up G-Fan, but that was a I had a roommate who got that all the time, so God knows how many of those I read. They used to have a Godzilla mini comic in the magazine in the earlier runs. That got cease and desist.
Toho came in to the rise of Gfantis, though.
Yep. And they were like, nope, but they said, can we do this? And Toho was like, yeah. They're like, just don't make adventures off of our character. And so I've had a lot of people like, oh, I want you this comic inside your thing, and it's going to be Optimus Prime and Megatron's funny follies. And I'm like, I'm more probably have to nix those, even though I think they would be awesome. I'm gonna have to probably go. There's that fine line. You know what I mean? If it's a piece of artwork that you make, you're fine. If it's an entire series, then you start running into issues, and that's something that we have a lawyer on file for that we had talked to. And later on, I'm gonna have to reach out and get me like an actual copyright lawyer. But South Dakota is such a small state. I only think there's one copyright lawyer in our entire state, so I don't know. It's rough.
Yeah,
it's hard to find copyright lawyers.
Even with that, it's so tough. Just depending on what it is, and especially with a print publication, to have to worry about the copyright stuff. So yeah, I think it would have to be an original IP, not something like featuring Transformers. It have to be its own robot, kind of unique. Not
exactly.
Yeah.
You know. And who knows? Maybe we'll have our own Gfantis situation where a mascot comes out of all this. I don't know.
Talk to robots with coffee. They know how to do that stuff.
Right on.
Well, thank you for joining us. It was great chatting it up and learning more about this. So you've answered a lot of our questions that I know that we've had, just because, like, what is this, strange thing, a magazine?
Yeah, it's an uphill battle, is what it is. It's an uphill battle, but it's something I think in the end is needed in the community.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's always fun to get something new and something different that we haven't had, just because, I don't know. It's nice to get off of social media too.
That we haven't had it in a while.
Well,
but yeah, this is very different from the fun publication magazines, and this is robots in general. This can include GoBots, Mechagodzilla, Spider-Man, awesome motorcycles.
We definitely don't have an article in our first issue about Magura whatsoever. Definitely don't. We do. So we already covered. Like I said, I want the first issue to show you. It's everything.
One thing I've been meaning to ask, you mentioned all these professionals and all this stuff that you have involved in the magazine. It sounds like you're actually doing a bulk of the writing. Is that correct?
For the first couple of issues, I'm going to be doing a bulk of the writing. We have a very small team. The main team is 4 people. And so it's small in-house. As it goes on, we hope to have more and more writers, and my job will become more and more of just editor.
Yeah.
So there's a challenge in that, but I work from home. I do online business, so it's, I'm in front of my computer all day anyway. So it isn't hard to write all the articles. It's a lot of work, and it's hard to make each one unique and interesting.
Well, I guess what I was going to get at is if you have have you done any writing that is out there that anyone can check out?
Honestly, not much.
Okay.
It's all interior stuff. But I've been writing on and off, like I said, since elementary. I was writing and reading and stuff like that. So books and magazines is my lifeblood. But the guy who is, funding this first issue behind the scenes and working on this is a guy who, when I approached him, I said, this is something that I know you're taking a chance on. He goes, well, I've read your writing before because I'm working on some stuff. And he's like, I like what you write. And he goes, I won't pull the trigger on this if I ain't like what you were writing. So,
Well, we look forward to your editorial debut.
I hope I don't disappoint. That's all I can say is I put my heart and soul into this. So, and we've had some of the people behind the scenes who have looked at. I haven't had any complaints yet, so it's looking good.
Cool. Well, very cool. Great. Well, we look forward to the Kickstarter, which is going live on February 4th at noon. So, And I guess you said check out the ToyRobot page on Facebook, but you will also, you said, be launching a website soon. Is that right?
We have the domain. It's just in the works right now, as far as I'm aware. They have a guy who does all their web designs. So
okay,
that's our main goal right now is getting this Kickstarter and hype built up towards the Kickstarter. That's been where all of our efforts have been going into, and then I know that there will be a website here soonish. So.
Well, wonderful. So, well, thank you so much for joining us. And I was just going to say, later on this week, we are going to have, tomorrow night, we got a new episode of Microcasters. That's going to be at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. We're going to feature some studio series this week. I believe we're back to a live Ouch My Wallet. I'll have to double check with Rob, though. And then, Rick, I know you have a special episode of Cut the Tape, right?
We got a special episode on Friday. It is a 2-part episode that you're only going to have to watch once.
To be continued?
No. So, the first part is me actually shaving my head. I filmed the whole thing. I did like a little canyon to shoot like a Hot Wheels down. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. The second part, I have a few Brave Maximuses here from 2000. And since it is now the year 2020, and it has been 20 years since Car Robots 2000 or RID, the RID, as some call it, I'm going to open up, for the first time ever, a sealed Brave Maximus.
Oh, nice.
On Cut the Tape. So that's this Friday. Shaved head, Brave Maximus.
All right, Rick, are you going to force me?
No one calls it the RID.
Are you
There's all sorts of editing tricks you're going to have to do.
Gosh darn it, Rick.
Yeah.
Why do you do this to me?
Yeah, there's going to have to be like floating bubbles above my head and everything.
Rick is like forcing me to actually learn how to edit. So
yeah,
this is rough. This is why we typically try to do live episodes, so I don't have to edit.
Yeah.
The less you guys know about what I'm capable of, the better.
So anyway, and then also if you like what we do, consider supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/TFYLP. Tiers from $1 on up. So, all right. Well, I think that's it for tonight. So thank you for joining us in the chat, guys. I know there's Rodimus Supreme, Nero 30. So it's been great chatting with Eric. So I appreciate it. And
thank you for having me.
Good luck with your Kickstarter, and we look forward to keeping tabs on it.
Yeah, definitely. We hope to maybe be on here again if you guys want. So yeah.
Yeah.
You are
Good
Devastator approved.
All right.
There you go. All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.